So it's been a few days since EA laid off devs from across all 4 of the Battlefield studios in what they called a realignment, where senior talent across all 4 studios from around the world who made the single best-selling game of 2025 were ungraciously fired just months after making EA more money than they've ever seen with a new game's release. Where EA fired full-time in-house developers just weeks after crying they didn't have enough resources to deliver the content fans wanted, and thus creating an insane oxymoron of firing the very people responsible for your current massive success, and the very people responsible for laying the groundwork for all that content you say you don't have the ability to deliver. Now, as most of you have already seen, I immediately dropped my initial thoughts in this video here, where I sorta ranted about the current state of the game, the failures of RedSec, and the short-sighted strategy of EA, where they seem to be stuck on the success of the original Warzone. But today, as someone who works in creative services, as an art director, as someone who's survived layoffs myself, and been inside meetings where people's fates have been decided, I wanted to take a step back and lay out the 3 possible reasons why EA may have made this move, all of which are a bad sign. Now, of course, EA is already positioning these layoffs as a realignment, a natural step in the cycle. But while of course these things do happen, devs leave after release and contractors rotate out, a mass firing including senior talent is only done when a company knows something's not working and is down to their last option. Human talent isn't just something you can throw away on a whim, especially when these are senior devs you have on payroll with benefits and possible severances, and especially when you're flush with cash. You do everything you can to retrain, reposition, and maneuver the team with the money you have, and only cut your resources if absolutely necessary. EA has restructured the Battlefield team time and time again, and to do it almost immediately after their apparent massive success only lends credibility to the public perception that while initial sales were great, the player fall-off is severe and revenue is going with it, thus leaving EA with no other options, or it's part of a darker plan to drain the life out of your devs now, throw them away, and cash out, recycling their foundational work into the next title. EA is clearly trying to put on a happy face as community managers stay silent, the studio says nothing, and EA continues to lean into their initial sales as proof of success. But whether it's a genuine downsizing of the studio's, emotional reaction to player complaints, or their new owners simply cutting corners, something is very wrong under the surface at EA. So like always, if you enjoy breakdowns and discussions on all things Battlefield, drop a like and hit subscribe, and let's talk about why EA fired their most profitable Battlefield developers ever. To kick things off, this is what I expect is the most likely scenario. Like I've said before, EA went into Battlefield with more money, more time, and more resources than ever before. The base development got well over 1,000 staff across 4 years with $400 million, all of which was probably supplemented with third-party developers, marketing agencies, and additional budgets to develop the game post-release. And all of this was supplied to Ripple Effect, DICE, Criterion, and Motive with the lofty goal of 100 million players. And the fact that EA publicly boasted that 74% of their revenue comes from live service. And for the most part, the release went perfectly. Upwards of 20 million players in the beta, 750,000 concurrent day one on Steam, 20 million copies sold by December, making it EA's most successful release ever, and the best-selling game of 2025, even beating Call of Duty big time. Battlefield Studios played their cards perfectly. The trailers, the beta, the press, community managers were on fire with fans, every update met with massive hype, new creators flooding the space, and big-name streamers were brought in to promote the game. However, it all suddenly died. The paid promotion stopped, streamers abandoned the game, RedSec was too little too late, player numbers started falling, the game's foundation cracked, and Season 2 was delayed. What was supposed to be the kickoff of a massive live service was nothing more than a short-term hit. EA watched as Battlefield burned super hot and yet died super fast. Whether they realized it or not, sales were fueled by casual fans' hype and the expectations that the game would only improve. However, that wasn't the case. EA watched as their devs that they'd given more time, money, and resources to than ever before fumbled and fumbled hard. Patches drove players away, Season 2 was delayed, community updates went quiet, and RedSec seemingly didn't perform anywhere near Warzone on which it was based. All of which culminated in the release of Season 2, where devs and EA alike had to swallow a hard truth. The fans weren't coming back, and they'd fucked it up. With new, fresh, lower-priced games like Arc Raiders releasing to critical acclaim, Battlefield fans dropped off the map, opting for something new or anything that wasn't Battlefield, as every week the devs warned us of new netcode issues, recoil bugs, or UI crashes. And at this point, heading into Season 2, I believe EA was ready to make a call. They just put down more time and money than ever, hired more devs than ever, and had higher expectations than ever, and the math didn't work out. Thus, after Season 2, EA went in with an axe, ready to cut away all the extra fat. If the game was going to underperform, they weren't going to pay this many people to make it happen. Instead of doubling down, they retreated, now seeing Battlefield as a mid-tier property because it had failed to capitalize on their insane investment. This wasn't a natural rotation of contracted employees, this was a broad firing spree across all studios in different countries with different employment laws and so on. Not a decision management would take easily. And this isn't to say EA didn't make money. In fact, I believe they made this call early on to protect the huge profits they'd just made. They saw the writing on the wall, producers saying they needed even more resources, while EA saw numbers tanking. So they cashed out. They accepted this was as good as things were gonna get, so let's cut expensive senior talent, put the game into life support, and cash out while we can. Ultimately, an understandable action from EA after they just watched their new live service crash and burn right after takeoff. But incredibly short-sighted, as they didn't just shoot Battlefield 6 in the foot, they almost certainly killed Battlefield 7 as well. EA was willing to throw in all the chips, but when management decided a Battle Royale, limited time modes, and $25 battle passes were what the fanbase wanted, they killed any chance of Battlefield staying atop the most played live services, and thus EA pulled the plug. Now, my next theory is pretty similar to the first, but a lot more cynical. This time around, what if it was all by design? Now, I personally don't believe this, but it's certainly something I'm sure EA would consider. What if EA knew that Battlefield, with the right marketing, would sell like crazy with the expectation to pull the plug right after? The EA built Battlefield Studios and hired all those devs just for the optics, knowing they'd use them to build the foundation of not just Battlefield 6, but also games to come. Thus, they bite the bullet, overhire, crank out a ton of assets on a new game engine, and then downsize the team and recycle content over the next few years. Perhaps they really expected RedSec to pop off like Hazard Zone, thus they could cut staff, downsize the main game, and drip-feed Battle Royale content like Apex. Now, as much as that's a very EA idea, I don't think they'd specifically hire and fire senior talent in such short order. The paperwork, retirement funds, healthcare, benefits, and severances, especially in places like Europe, aren't cheap. Realistically, I'd expect this to be done with contractors, where EA holds on to senior talent, hires out production, and cuts contracts as they wish, with limited pay and benefits. However, the idea they overhire to bank content to recycle later is totally believable. But let me know what you think in the comments below. At the end of the day, if the idea was to shift Battlefield into a Battle Royale-focused live service with a smaller outsourced crew, then EA really fucked this up. Finally, and perhaps a factor across all these theories, is that EA simply timed the firing of all the developers in these expensive Western studios to impress their new Saudi owners. Because as many of you might remember, EA recently went private under the ownership of 3 Saudi-based firms for a whopping $55 billion. And like in many of these transactions, EA most likely wanted to clean up their books and free up their overhead costs as they enter 2026. Essentially run the devs ragged, getting Battlefield out before the end of Q4, come under new ownership during the next Q1, and head into that partnership with the best-selling game ever while reducing overhead. Thus, in the grand scheme of things, they didn't care about Battlefield or its future as an IP, but more so the optics over the next few quarters, as perhaps their new owners bring in cheaper labor, and they use end-of-year performance reviews to scope out payroll, cut staff, and clean out the books for their new leadership to make decisions. At the end of the day, there's a ton of factors that most likely went into these layoffs, all of which are for terrible reasons. Whether it's pure greed, retaliation for Battlefield's decline, or part of a darker plan where they expected RedSec to take off while reducing staffing post-release. No matter your theory on the matter, I think we can all agree that firing senior talent from across the world while the team cries out for more support was a terrible move for Battlefield. Perhaps some devs did need to go, but at the same time, EA has the money and means to shift talent and tactically handle its workforce. There's no rush, no lack of money, only EA's greed. But guys, let me know your thoughts below, and for everything else Battlefield, stay tuned and subscribe, and as always, thank you guys for watching.